Hey guys, had a lot of people asking me about this Shehds mod, so I'm gonna do one here. I'm modding these straight out of the box, just because I've already done one and I know that they're too loud, and we're working in a really low ceiling light situation, so let's get going here. Set the handles aside for now because we're not going to need those till later. So if we're looking at what we need for this, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, some wire cutters, a little bit of electrical tape. I'm using it to mark. One of the fans does not have the hot and ground marked, so I'm using this to mark it, the hot, so I know which one's which. Otherwise you're going to get lost. Some mini zip ties, an Allen wrench, and then your two replacement fans. I'm using the Pure Wings, or Be Quiet Pure Wings 2, 1500 RPM. If you're worried about max cooling, they do make a high speed model, but usually higher speeds mean more noise. So I'm using this one, and I'm also using the Noctua 60 by 25 millimeter. There's a second fan that they've kind of hidden in there, and I'll show you. All right, let's get at it. So, go ahead and pull this out. Picture comes like that. It's like this. Those are the handles. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just pull this right apart because we know we need to. If you're anal retentive like me, I actually put the last one apart backwards, where when you're looking at it this way, the screen right side up has the cool white, I believe, LED on your left. If that's important to you. I'm probably gonna put them all together upside down just so they're all the same. All right, so we got 4 screws here we're gonna pull out, which release this back. Actually, we're going to start that. Well, yeah, this will release the control plate. I made a little card over here when I started so I could keep track of which screws were which, because I wasn't sure how long. The prototype was a several day project because I had to order fans on Amazon because this just started as me opening it to see, what did it look like, and then I unplugged the fans one at a time and realized exactly how much noise they're making. Okay, so we got those out. So that'll release this guy. Our Allen wrench. There's 2 releases in the side here, and they're very sneakily recessed. One of them is here. There's the second one. All right, and then the last thing we're going to remove are these 4. And you have to be careful here because they're the only ones that are slotted. Regular Phillips head screws here on the front that's holding the casing, or it kind of weaves the casing and the lens together here, or not the lens, but like the front of the fixture there. So we're gonna pull those out. Okay, so at this point the whole thing should come right apart, and you can see the back coming out already. So we're gonna pull the sides. We don't need the sides, we need everything else. That's really what we want to get at there, is this. So this is what the inside looks like. So basically, if we're looking at this, if you want to see what's going on, this is the big 120 millimeter fan pointed at the heatsink. And then we got this other fan zip tied in here. That's where the Noctua is gonna go. That's shooting that way to keep the area here on the cool side. I'm gonna guess that they built it without this. realized that this needed to be here because it was overheating and swapped this in. So all we're gonna do is make those fans quieter. So first thing I'm gonna do is release these cable jumbles with my side cuts, and you just gotta be careful we're not nicking anything. That's 1 and 2, just like that. And those are free. Last one I actually soldered, realized you don't even need to, so we're gonna do this one the even easier way. So now we're gonna pull out the 120 millimeter, which are 1, 2, 3 big screws. At this point, if we have freed all these tails, we should be able to bring the fan out. Just like that. Right, that's the big one. And we're just gonna notice they are labeled here, V+, VG, ground is black, so I'm just gonna go ahead and open this up. It actually looks like on this one, I don't think they were twisted together on the last one. That's interesting. Oh, well, I just kind of messed it up. It's okay, because we don't want to use these anymore. So at that point, this one's all the way free. We can add that to the garbage pile. And then we're going to take our side cuts and release the other fan because it's just being held by zip ties. Just like that. There's that one. Also trash. Okay. So now we have a fanless light. We're gonna put our new ones in. 120 millimeter. Be quiet. For those of you that game know that they're pretty good at what they do. I don't have any other stuff yet. I'm getting ready to rebuild. I'd like to use it. Okay, so insertion is rather simple. You know, try to get your tail in a useful spot. Where you can get this up. And then at this point, you got two options. Last one, I did this weird, this one I think I'm gonna trim the length. So this is the one the electrical tape comes in handy because if you notice the entire cable is all the way black. So if we're looking at this, there is looks like a number 1 without the bottom. You probably can't see it from clear up there. That's your ground, which is also it's also the far right side, I believe, when you have it with the little tabs up. So that's your ground. And I'm gonna safe mode of me always leaves tails on stuff just in case I want to use it later. So, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and make this. I'll probably pull it back to here, just because then I have less to worry about. Last one I had a lot of cable management to do, and let's face it, it's not like these are gonna get used for anything else. So. Okay, that's about where I want to be. So the first thing I'm going to do, this third wire, you have the ground, right? That'd be this one. We're looking at it this way, and then we have our hot, and then we have this one, which is like PWM control when you're working with PC fans. So I'm automatically eliminating that one from being in the mix because I don't want to deal with it. Not going to need it. We don't use it. They don't use it. So, bye-bye. That leaves us with 2. And this is where the red electrical tape becomes handy. I'm just gonna take a little bit. Just like that. this one. Just come in here. Just like that. Now I know which one's hot. Now I can cut them all off. Not have to worry about it. Leave a little bit of headroom. Can you tell I'm an audio engineer? Headroom? Okay. All right, and we're gonna bring those back around. At this point, my fingernails are rather long, and I'm just gonna, well, maybe not, pop the end off. Just like that. There we go. Just like that, and we know which one the hot is. And that's ready to go. I'm gonna hook them on at the same time. Go ahead and give them a twist here. Okay, that's that one. Pull out the Noctua now. Misleading because it looks like it's a 120mm or more, but I pull out the box and it's this lovely collection of things that I don't need. It is a little louder than the Be Quiet, and if you're feeling adventurous, Be Quiet's smallest is an 80mm, so it won't fit this smaller side, but it will fit this bigger side. Depth-wise, I was worried about it fitting the chassis, and this seems to be, I've cleared this with everyone that we were worried about the noise with, and they seem to be okay with it. This is what I got. I think they cost-ish the same. Noctua's a little nicer-ish, that their wires are color-coded, but they have heat shrinked it and stuff, so you do have to cut the heat shrink off. It's just an extra step that you have to worry about. Not a huge deal, so we're gonna do that here. Right side. Okay. So at this point, you can see the color-coded. The yellow is the PWM, black is your ground, red is your hot, right? So we are gonna attempt to cut some of this away. I don't have a knife. This is kind of a braided heat shrink. It's a little harder to just cut off. And unlike that other one, this Noctua one does not have a lot of tail to it, so not gonna leave as much space off the connector. This one, something like that's probably fine. There goes the end. Just like the last one, we don't need yellow, so I'm gonna make it go away. And I'm left with this. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the ends off of these right now while I got it. Right? And then we're spinning in the logo direction, and you got an arrow. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this in here where it goes. Oops. And I actually, this one, you gotta make sure that your wire is off the right edge there, because if it's not, you are going to not have enough to get it up here. It's about just enough. So that's where that goes. Now we're gonna come to our zip ties. I highly suggest just starting these, and I'm also gonna put it through this way because I was having an issue earlier on the other one with some of this. So we're gonna, anyways, but I suggest coming through and just one click. Just one click each before you tighten them down, and there we go. When you do tighten, you still want to be careful. I was having some issues where the top was actually tilting because I tightened it too much. This fan, the Noctua one, because it's a 25 millimeter, the original is only 15 millimeters deep. We're actually adding depth. It's going to stick out a little bit, and it's just enough that it will still work. Just like that. Just like that. So at this point, I'm going to cinch down the bottom one. The bottom one's going to dictate how high the top ones, or how hard the top ones can go. Go ahead and take the extras off. Okay. Making sure that's facing the right direction. Gonna go ahead and screw in the 120 millimeter since I did not do that right away. If you do not have ADHD like I do, you probably have already done this or are doing this in the right order. Make sure you screw those down all the way. There's going to be a slight air gap between the fan and the actual heat exchange. If you loose screw it, it could be screwed in but still sitting on the heat exchange. And as we know, when that kind of stuff, the transfer of or changing mediums is what helps that work efficiently. So there we go. Okay, so I got that all hooked back in. Now, B plus is on the right here. So we're gonna go ahead and bring those around. Still in there? Actually, in this case, the less leaves may go on this side. I just need to bring it off. Let's stuff. Might be soldered in case I need it. Just hope you got it, just like that. We got two. Alright, tighten that down. This one, the black one, will make by itself, so I'll send that one in. That. There we go, just like that. And we are now all fixed up, right? Now, before I put everything back together and zip tie everything back together and all that, I am gonna confirm that everything's working. This is probably not a 100% safe practice, but I am going to do it. So I will plug in the power con with this open so I can confirm that the fans are spinning. Obviously, don't touch bare wires, don't touch the power thing, don't stick metal in anything. Just plug it in, let it fire up enough to do that. Make sure they're all functioning, spinning the right direction, there's no errors. Then I'll power it back off, then I put it back together. So here we are with our fire up. Yep. Nice. Cool. At that point, I know that it's working. Now we're going to do the whole process in reverse to put it back together. And have it here. Looks like it's falling from. Okay, alright, so that's there. Have those. We got wire harness. Okay. At that point, we do everything we just did to make this appear backwards. Best advice, don't tighten everything until everything's together. else you'll find yourself unscrewing it a little bit to make everything fit. I'm doing this first because the case comes apart too many places and I don't have enough hands. So by putting these in, this panel is at least secure to the assembly, and I can work from there. Okay, here. Yeah. Okay. This thing will get closed down. Right, just on these. It's a little funky sometimes because it's almost like the hole's a little bit on the small side, so we're just gonna. Don't take away. Even when you get two of them, still don't want to tighten all the way because these two have to be able to. This has to slot when you go to put the case together. So there's half of it, and we'll just finish the half here. Same thing here, this needs to rotate just a touch. Right? I'll come down here and go ahead and get these seated before we tighten anything. Put these back in. Right, this point. This is where I said don't tighten all the way. Want to make sure your case here and here are all the way together, and then we're going to tighten. There you go. Now your light's back together. We can fire it up and it'll be very close to silent. And truth be told, those of you doing this, if you play around with that be quiet for the in place of the Noctua, pretty sure the Noctua is the one that is making most of the noise here. And again, it's very minor once you get far away from it. For our low ceiling room, it's gonna be fine. So at that point, we bring out this little white package that came with it and put the ears on, and we're good to go. And there you are. If you're like me and waiting for barn doors, that is that's the only thing we're currently waiting on. And apparently they ship separately. So I'm giving them a couple weeks before I give them a hard time about it. There it is. So that is a Shehds. This is their warm white, cool white cob, modded with the Be Quiet Pure Wings 2 120mm and the Noctua NFA6 by 25 FLX, which is a 60 by 25mm fan. And all in all, the results are great. I'll keep you guys updated on performance. There are a couple people asking me to run it. I ran it for an hour, the prototype, with no problems. Didn't notice any overheating. So, happy modding!